Hello, and welcome to our webinar, Trending Titles for Back to School. I'm Heather Booth. I'm the audio editor here at Booklist. Before we begin, I'd like to go over some technical details. A link to today's slide presentation was included in the reminder email that you received from Zoom about an hour ago. To download it, open that email, scroll to the bottom, and click on the link located there. You can also download the slides by copying the URL on this screen into your web browser. The audience is in listen-only mode, but we welcome any questions you may have. On the bottom of your screen is a toolbar with a section for Q&A. If you have a question or if you need technical assistance, just click the Q&A and type your message into the box that appears. We will do our best to respond to all tech-related questions, and we'll pass along all other questions to today's panelists so they can follow up with you after the webinar. Last but not least, Booklist offers closed captioning on all webinars. To enable or disable captions on your screen, please look for and click live transcription icon on the toolbar mentioned above. From there, you can select show or hide subtitles from the menu that appears. If you choose to enable subtitles, you can adjust the size of the captions at any time by selecting subtitle settings. We have a wonderful program for you today. So let's begin by meeting today's presenters. Marisa Arancibia received her BA in Professional Writing in Spanish from Miami University and her MLIS from Kent State University. She worked for a nonprofit in Dallas, Texas before realizing that her passion was in libraries and moving back to Ohio to pursue her degree. She gained experience as an adult services librarian for 3 years before coming to work at OverDrive. She loves curating collections of favorite reads and discussing nerdy lore and fan theories with her fellow library people in her role as digital content librarian. When she's not working, she can be found reading thrillers, fantasy, romance, traveling, and playing with her goofy dog, Swarley. Kristen Milks wishes she could get paid to sit at home and read. Don't we all? Seeing as that does not pay the bills, librarianship was a close second. After receiving her BA in English and French from Ohio University, Kristen got her MLS from Indiana University. She worked as an adult information services librarian at a library in Northeast Ohio before coming to OverDrive in 2015. Her reading tastes are eclectic, but she loves comic memoirs, cozy mysteries, smart romance, horror, and a lot of other subjects. Jane Whitehurst earned her BA in English and Film Studies from Ohio State University and her MLIS from Kent State University. Prior to starting in OverDrive in 2018, she worked as a public librarian for 10 years. Her love of reading in libraries has been lifelong, but really became an obsession when, as a young teen, she discovered all of the wonderful YA pulp series of the 90s. As a digital content librarian, Jane works to help libraries develop collections, achieve circulation goals, and maximize user engagement. Thanks for joining us, Marisa, Kristen, and Jane. The floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. For those of you who are not familiar with us, we are OverDrive, the leading digital reading platform. We are a trusted partner of over 81,000 libraries, schools, colleges, and corporations in over 106 countries. With millions of titles to choose from, libraries can build the best book collection to meet all of their community needs. We have a staff of in-house librarians, including the 3 of us presenting today, to help you make the most of your digital library, including shopping for titles, curating them for you, and to be a partner along the way. Our award-winning reading app Libby makes it easy for readers to browse and borrow ebooks, audiobooks, magazines, and more from your public library. We are also a B Corp, which means we join a growing movement of global companies who use their business for good. Next slide, please. Many of the titles we are going to be discussing today are included in our back to school sale. We indicate which books are for sale with a star. Between now and September 30th, save 25 to 50% on thousands of ebooks and audiobook titles. Visit Marketplace to get started. Next slide, please. I should also mention there are going to be a number of QR codes throughout this presentation. Please click on them, or I'm sorry, not click on them, but take a picture of them and they will take you to links as well. So first of all, I want to start off by saying that social emotional learning books are becoming a lot more prevalent, especially for younger readers. Today, we will be discussing a number of the titles that fit within the SEL area so that you can make sure your library is providing titles parents want to use with their children. How to Catch a Class Pet by Alice Walstead and Andy Alkertine. Part of the How to Catch series, this is a perfect book for back to school. As students come back to their classrooms, they get to meet their class pets, but all the pets are escaping. Can the reader set a trap to help catch the hamster, bunny, birds, and lizard that are now on the loose? Some of the other books in this series are also for sale.
Next is A Perfect Wonderful Day with Friends, written and illustrated by Philip Faulkner and translated to English from German by translator Melody Shaw. We are now almost officially into fall, but if you, like myself, want to hold on to summer just a little bit longer, this is the perfect book for you. This is a soft, warm-hearted book, and it honestly gives me Paddington Bear vibes. With its whimsical illustrations and anthropomorphic animals that love their friends and their pastries. Raccoon wants to bake a delicious apple cake, but before he can, he needs a few more ingredients. He visits his friend Fox, who is mending his roof but missing a ladder. Friend after friend joins his group in search of missing things, and very soon they turn their day out into one of enjoying the sun on their fur, swimming, fishing, and picnicking. After this very full and happy day, they return home to finally bake that yummy apple cake. A Perfect Wonderful Day with Friends is an absolute delight and was a finalist in the Happy and Healthy category of the 2022 Teach Early Years Awards. This is a sale title and it came out recently on August 2nd.
That sounds like a perfect marriage between a summer and fall book with cooking an apple cake.
So cute. It's so cute.
So the next book is Sunflower Sisters by Monica Singh Gongatra and Michaela Diaz-Hayes. This is a beautifully drawn picture book about two friends who are both looking forward to their siblings' weddings. Throughout this book, Amrita, our main character, is told not to spend too much time outside, to wear certain creams, or not to wear certain colors. Amrita's mother debunks all these old wives' tales and beliefs about colorism. Amrita knows she is beautiful and loves the skin she's in. This is an excellent book to teach children about colorism. Next slide, please.
Books featuring diverse characters continue to be extremely popular, even despite the rampant book bans and challenges. Publishers understand that librarians and library staff want titles that reflect their unique communities and patrons, and have indicated that they plan to continue to provide them. Throughout the rest of the presentation, we'll have a lot of great diverse titles for you to pick to help you add diversity to your collections and to your own TBRs. First up, we have The Secret of the Plethanol, written by Luz Maria Mack and illustrated by Stephanie Mesa. This is a gorgeous book that follows a nighttime dance between an abuela and her grandchild set to the magical plátanos or bananas. I wish that I could share more pages with you today because I love the illustrations so much, but definitely be sure to check them out on your own later today. This was written by a Dominican-American author after a dream where she and her abuela were reunited again. This is a tender multi-generational story about love and memories of a faraway home in Latin America. Both this English version and the Spanish language version, El Secreto de Plátano, were published last Monday on September 6th and are also a part of our back to school sale.
Gibberish by Young Vo. Dat is starting a new school where everyone speaks English, which is just gibberish to Dat. He struggles through classroom learning and can't read or communicate with any of his classmates. Then he meets a little girl who wants to be friends. The drawings in this picture book show how Dat feels totally different than the other students. This is a perfect companion for any youngsters who are ESL or any kids who have ESL classmates. It will help ESL learners not to feel so alone and help kids who have ESL learners in their school empathize with the struggle of having to learn a new language. This is a great social emotional learning book, and it happens to be on sale. The last book on this slide is Big Problems, Little Problems by Ben Feller and Mercy Lopez. Sam sometimes has big problems. He can't zip up his hoodie. He can't find his favorite cape. But Sam's dad helps him realize he's making a little problem into a big problem. Sam can find a different solution, and by taking a deep breath, he can avoid frustration. This book goes on to show Sam, the boy, having to talk his dad through a big problem. And Sam takes the problem his dad thought was a big deal and shows his dad that it is easily solved with a little bit of problem solving and a deep breath. This is another excellent social emotional learning book. Next slide, please.
For nonfiction picture books, we have I Am Ruby Bridges by Ruby Bridges, illustrated by Nicholas Smith. We all know who the inspirational Ruby Bridges is, but now we can read about her historic life through the eyes of her 6-year-old self. On the day that she became the first Black child to desegregate the previously all-white William Frantz Elementary School in New Orleans, Louisiana in November of 1960. In her own words, Bridges explains how she didn't know that she would be the only Black child at her school. Didn't realize the magnitude of what she was doing, how simply going to school was an act of defiance. Though she was meant to be integrating the school, Bridges explains how she was hidden away, alone in the school until the end of the year when she met a few other students and learned why she was alone and what racism was. Though Bridges has told her story before, this picture book examines the transformative year from another angle, with moving introspection and uplifting illustrations from NAACP Image Award nominated artist Nicholas Smith. This is perfect for those aged 4 to 8 and a powerful learning tool for educators. I Am Ruby Bridges is a completely unforgettable must-read and available right now.
And next, Our World is a Family. Our Community Can Change the World by Miri Whitehill, Jennifer Jackson, and Nomar Perez. This book is brought to you by the founders of Miri's List, which is a nonprofit that helps refugees and their experiences shine through in the text. It's all about how we can make refugee families or individuals feel safe, loved, and important in their new home. It is adorably illustrated and moves along quickly, starting with reasons why someone might leave their home country to how difficult it can be to adapt to their new home, and very quickly to how we can help others feel welcome. Readers are given examples of how to be good neighbors, from offering a smile or a wave, to giving a gift, to sharing experiences like dancing and eating together. It is a sweet picture book that reminds us all that the human experience is universal and kindness is free.
What a great book, very timely right now as well. Next, we have Patchwork by Matt De La Pena, illustrated by Karina Lukin. One of the most asked questions of children is always, inevitably, what do you want to be when you grow up? Author Matt De La Pena explores this question with wide-ranging answers and, most importantly, the simple fact that all children are born with endless possibilities. A young dancer may grow into a computer coder, a basketball player may become a poet, a class clown may one day serve as an inspiring teacher, and today's quiet empath might be tomorrow's great leader. His message to young readers? Their story is not written in stone. De La Pena is a Newbery Medal-winning author, and his illustrator, Karina Lukin, is a New York Times bestselling illustrator, so there's no surprise that this is a moving and empowering new story and sure to become a classic. This was published on August 30th, so it's available now for purchase and from your local library.
This was such a beautiful book. I really loved it.
Very, very cute. Great illustrations for sure.
Yeah.
And then next we have Together, A First Conversation About Love by Megan Madison, Jessica Relia, and Anne/Andy Paisher. The latest in the First Conversation series by experts and educators in the fields of early childhood and activism against injustice explores important conversations between children and their caretakers about love, relationships, and families. Originally a board book, this new version helps families discuss difficult topics with clear language and bright and colorful illustrations, sparking conversations in a way that children can understand as they grow and start to gain self-awareness and sense of self. Others in the First Conversation series include Yes, No, A First Conversation About Consent, as well as a Spanish language version of their book called Our Skin, A First Conversation About Race. Oftentimes difficult or uncomfortable topics can be ignored because caretakers don't know how to broach the subject with children. These books act as a great starting point to important conversations necessary to development and contain resources and ideas for extending the conversation at the end of the book. Together, A First Conversation About Love will be out on December 27th.
I love this theme that we're seeing of all of these great titles. Up next, we have Opal Lee and What It Means to Be Free, the true story of the grandmother of Juneteenth by Alice Faye Duncan and Keturah A. Bobo. Over the course of 4 years, the grandmother of Juneteenth, Opal Lee, walked across the country and collected signatures to petition Congress to make Juneteenth a national holiday. In this picture book, readers learn the story of Juneteenth from its origins to its modern day celebration. We're introduced to Opal Lee, who takes us on a storytelling journey beginning June 19th, 1865, when Lincoln's order to free enslaved Black Americans was served in Texas. When we then move through the celebration of Juneteenth during Opal's own childhood in the Jim Crow era. And finally, we make our way to present day celebrations when the petition Lee created, signed by 1.5 million Americans, made its way to the White House, where President Biden declared Juneteenth a national holiday. The story is told in beautiful verse with bright and captivating folk art illustrations. It also contains an index with recipes, timelines, biographical information, and sources. It is an excellent resource for teachers, librarians, and students.
Next slide, please.
All right, let's get into some middle grade fiction. First, I want to talk about Holler of the Fireflies by David Barclay Moore. This title comes out September 27th. It has starred reviews from Publishers Weekly and Kirkus. Javari is from Brooklyn, and he's going to a STEM-based summer camp in Appalachia. Going to camp is a wake-up call for him. Through his friendship with another boy at camp, Javari starts learning about the Appalachian area and its residents, especially Appalachians. He also begins exploring issues like corporate greed, the opioid crisis, and water rights. This is a great book for kids who are starting to discover the world is a big place with some complicated issues.
And up next, we have Air by Monica Rowe. Emmy is a 12-year-old athlete and entrepreneur. She loves nothing more than wheelchair motocross and can be seen popping wheelies and making risky jumps all around her school and small town. She also has a side business selling custom handmade wheelchair bags, saving her income to buy the tricked out WCMX wheelchair of her dreams. When she has an accident on a substandard ramp at school, though, her principal, thinking they're helping, revisits her 504 plan and hires an aide to keep Emmy safe. As if this isn't frustrating enough, the school administration then catches wind of Emmy's dream of her new wheelchair and sets up a fundraiser to help her. Emmy is soon thrown into the role of being the token girl in a wheelchair, a role she never wanted. This book's strength lies in how it teaches kids to be kind without being patronizing, how to help others advocate for their own needs, not the needs that others think they should have, and how to be an all-around better ally for those with disabilities. Monica Rowe is a physical therapy provider and also a researcher for the social model of disabilities and inclusive rural health. And her background makes this story that much more impactful. This book is also a Junior Library Guild Gold Standard selection.
That book sounds incredible.
Yes, very strong main character. I'm really excited for that one.
Yeah.
Next, we have The Curse on Spectacle Key by Chantal Acevedo. Bookish Frank Fernandez's family moves around a lot. The renovators and their latest project brought this family to Spectacle Key, Florida, closer to Frank's grandfather, Pop Pop, and a crumbling lighthouse that appears to be just a little bit haunted. Frank soon meets a girl dressed in old-fashioned clothes and no memory of who she is. She tells Frank about the island's curse and that she needs his help to break it. But if he does break it, what will happen to his new and only friend? There are ghosts, mysteries, friendship, and family, as well as a sweet and relatable Cuban-American protagonist who follows his heart and strives to do the right thing. Creepy dolls and mediums add to the supernatural, and you'll find yourself lost in the story as you root for Frank and his family to save the lighthouse and solve multiple mysteries that span decades. Perfect for younger middle schoolers who love horror, Chantal Acevedo serves up spooky fun right in time for Halloween.
If there are spooky dolls and a grandpa named Pop Pop, I'm going to have to read that book. So
Love
speaking,
Pop Pop.
I know, Pop Pop. Speaking of spooky reads, I want to talk about The Stitchers, the first book in the Fright Watch series by Laureen Lawrence. There are currently 3 books out in this series. This is a perfect spooky season read for any kid who likes a bit of a scare and perhaps is a Goosebumps fan. Quinn Parker lives on Goody Lane, and for as long as anyone can remember, the oldies have lived there too. But the thing about the oldies is they never seem to age. Are they aliens? Are they vampires? Who knows? Now Quinn decides she wants to get to the bottom of this mystery, but is she brave enough to uncover the truth? Next slide, please.
Here we have some more middle grade fiction. We're starting off with Windswept by Margie Priest. Newbery Honor winner Margie Priest is back with a middle grade fantasy in which children are being swept away when they dare to venture outside, leaving almost nothing behind. When Tag's sisters are windswept, Tag gathers a crew to rescue the disappeared and bring them home. This crew consists of Boots, who can climb anything, Ant, who will eat anything, Wren, who will say anything, and Tag, who doesn't appear to have any talent whatsoever. They only fairy tales and a ribbon that just might be magical, hoping that together they can save the windswept and stop those who took them once and for all. A spellbinding fantasy, Windswept's array of quirky characters, spins on classic tales, and social commentary on climate change make this an engaging and refreshing read for children and adults alike. This title came out on September 13th.
I love the cover on this one too. It's just so interesting to look at. I see something new every time I look.
I know, it's like a puzzle.
Yeah, such a beautiful piece of art. Next, I want to talk about Moonflower by Case and Callender. You might know Case and Callender's name because they were the winner of the National Book Award for King and the Dragonflies. Moonflower came out on September 6th. It is the story of Moon, a non-binary 12-year-old who wants to escape their unbearable life. They do that by traversing the spirit realm on a nightly basis. This is a great book for kids starting to think about mental health or going through mental health issues. Publishers Weekly says, a rousing central character, Moon is vulnerable in the face of pain, loving despite disappointment, and determined to make their own choice in a novel that emphasizes how you're so loved even if you can't see it.
Another beautiful cover, and I love the non-binary representation here.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot more of that in children's and YA books recently.
Mm-hmm. All right, next we have A Long Way from Home by Laura Schaefer. When 12-year-old Abby moves to Florida for her mom's new job in an aerospace company, she meets a couple of boys named Adam and Bix who claim to be a long way from home, from the future, in fact. In this future, they say, all the problems of our 21st century have been solved. Abby is ecstatic at this news as she is worried about the state of the world, from climate change to the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, and she soon makes to deal with them. She'll help them if in return she can leave their world behind and travel back to the future with them. This is grounded sci-fi with a protagonist who is anxious and overwhelmed, like many who live in today's 24-hour news cycle. But will she find that an unknown future or today's present day holds more possibilities for her? With futuristic technology, mysterious texts, new friends, women in STEM, and a message of hope, A Long Way from Home should be on any middle schoolers to read list this fall. It'll be out on October 4th and is currently a sale item. Next slide, please.
And now we're going to talk about some middle grade nonfiction picks. Up first, we have a title that is probably very familiar to all of us. It is Me and White Supremacy, adapted for kids by Layla F. Saad. Layla Saad is New York Times bestselling author and educator, as well as a podcast host. The adult version of Me and White Supremacy was on the New York Times bestsellers list for weeks upon weeks, and it has now been adapted for young readers. This book aims to give young people the tools they need to actively dismantle racism and create a better world for everyone. Layla Saad provides cultural context to white supremacy while giving the reader interesting anecdotes along the way. She touches on the subjects of cultural appropriation, white fragility, privilege, and more, all in an age-appropriate tone for kids. She acknowledges that this work can be uncomfortable and difficult, but guides the reader through complex thought processes in a clear and concise way. These discussions that are sparked by this book will be valuable, and its ideas will stay in readers' minds a long time after they finish. And next is Packing for Mars for Kids by Mary Roach. Mary Roach, author of 6 New York Times bestselling adult titles, brings us an adapted version of her wildly popular Packing for Mars. Did you know that the Coca-Cola Company spent nearly $500,000 to develop a Coke dispenser that would be safe for space? All of the work was for nothing, though, because carbonated drinks cause massive problems in a gravity-free body. If an astronaut drinks carbonation, the bubbles don't rise up in the stomach like they do in gravity. Instead, they create a pocket of gas, making it extremely difficult for astronauts to burp out the air. Yes, I learned this from reading this book. Mary Roach is one of the most hilarious nonfiction writers out there, and Packing for Mars for Kids is highly entertaining. There are entire chapters about using the bathroom and bathing in space, and believe me, it is not pretty. Roach features high interest and honestly wacky elements of space travel and describes them in a well-researched and easily understandable way. Kids will be too busy laughing to realize that they're learning, and this is a great pick for reluctant readers with STEM interests.
I hope we still have some future astronauts if they read this and think it sounds disgusting to go to space.
I think they'll want to go because it's disgusting, hopefully.
All right, next I want to talk about Science Comics Bridges by Dan Zetwak. This is a whole comic series that features different science topics like trees, coral reefs, robots, weather, and in the newest edition, bridges and engineering. Perfect for kids interested in science. Through narrative nonfiction, these comics give kids great facts while keeping them engaged. Model Minority Myth by Virginia Lohagen. Part of the Racial Justice in America series, this is a series that dives into different historical events that impacted marginalized people in the US, such as the Tulsa race riots, the Japanese American internment, along with books about racial justice and ones that look at stereotypes and myths, like this featured title. These titles are a perfect starter for kids who want to learn more about social issues in the US. All the titles in this series are in the links you will receive to this, to all the books. Next slide, please.
And continuing on with nonfiction, we have Unstoppable Us, Volume 1. So I'm hoping for Volume 2 very soon. How Humans Took Over the World by Yuval Noah Harari, illustrated by Ricard Zaplana Ruiz. New York Times author of the world-renowned Sapiens is back, this time with a middle grade book that looks at how the human race came to be unstoppable. We can't run as fast as lions or swim as fast as a shark, yet we've overcome barriers and disasters unlike any other animal in the known world. We have learned to make fire, invented microwaves, and landed on the moon. But how did we get to this point? With illustrations, maps, and timelines, Harari shows readers how humans evolved over time to become the dominant force on Earth and survive against great odds. Fascinating and accessible, this book is unputdownable and filled with great information, even for those who tend to gravitate toward fiction titles. Created for 5th to 9th graders, but entertaining and educational enough for adults, if you're a fan of Yuval Noah Harari, you're going to want to pick this one up on October 18th when it drops.
Kids Can Cook Anything by America's Test Kitchen. The America's Test Kitchen kids books are bestsellers, and this one should be a fun new addition to the others. This title comes out on September 20th. It is a perfect at-home maker's book for kids, which teaches them a life skill that they should be able to use for the rest of their lives. America's Test Kitchen thoroughly tests their recipes, and their books are stunning. My nephew has cooked a few recipes from one of their previous books, and they were delicious. I highly recommend adding this to your collection and maybe buying it for any kids in your life as well. Next slide, please.
And now we're going to delve into young adult fiction. Up first, we have Even When Your Voice Shakes by Ruby Goca. This is a book about the struggle between speaking out and maintaining the status quo. It takes place in Ghana, where we meet Amerly. Amerly must support her family as her mother is struggling with postpartum depression and her father is not around. She takes odd jobs using her sewing skills, but her real aspiration is to be a seamstress apprentice. When she is offered a job working for a wealthy, distant relative named Rosina, she knows it's an opportunity she can't pass up. Rosina will not only pay Amerly generous wages, but will support her apprenticeship in 2 years' time. Amerly takes the position and moves away from her family. The work is hard, but the wages are helping, and everything seems to be going according to plan until Amerly is sexually assaulted by the son of her employer. Now she must choose between speaking out and risking her job or staying silent. This book explores issues of poverty, power dynamics, victim blaming, and survival, and it is absolutely beautifully written.
I feel like we're seeing a lot of those kind of where you have to speak out or you have to like keep your mouth shut. The power dynamics and all of these. It sounds a lot like my next one actually, which is How to Succeed in Witchcraft by Lynn Brophy. This one's described as a YA fantasy for fans of Never Have I Ever and Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and I could not be more excited about this. Shay Johnson's a junior at TK Anderson Magical Magnet School, rehearsing with her sworn enemy for a musical that might just be her ticket into the university of her dreams. To do this, she'll have to impress musicals director and head of the scholarship committee, Mr. B. When Shay finds herself receiving Mr. B's unpleasant and unwanted attention and learns that she's not the first witch to be put in this position, she must decide if she should step up and speak out and lose out on a scholarship that could change her life. Along the way, Shay realizes that her sworn enemy, Anna, may not be the enemy that she thought she was, and maybe, just maybe, she's not so alone in her struggle. This magical debut checked so many boxes. Brown lesbian protagonist, check. Enemies to lovers trope, check. Social commentary, check. And so much more. The magical system and social justice issues are expertly handled, and though this is the author's first novel, you would not have known from their writing. A second untitled novel is to follow, and I know I'll be first in line to read it. However, you can pick up How to Succeed in Witchcraft on September 27th.
Putting this on my TBR, check.
I was going to say,
100%.
yep, putting this on my list, check. Up next, we have You Truly Assumed by Layla Sabrine. After a terrorist attack on Washington, D.C., where Bree lives, the attacker, based solely on their last name, is assumed to be Muslim. Soon, ugly anti-Islamic sentiments are stirred up and make their way to the cultural forefront. Bree, a Black Muslim teen, is hurt and angry and needs an outlet for her feelings, so she starts a blog called You Truly Assumed and begins to write. As the blog grows bigger and gains more followers, Bree enlists the help of Zakat to bring words to life through site art and Farrah to manage the technology and security side of the site. Soon, the blog creates a community of support and friendship. That is, until the internet does what the internet does, and threats start to pour into the comments. Now the friends are faced with a dilemma: continue writing and risk violence, or shut down the site. As you can see, there is definitely a theme here in these titles this time around.
Mhm.
Readers will enjoy the ride as these three characters come of age. This is a debut novel for Layla Sabrine, and she is certainly one to watch.
This definitely sounds like another like Gen Z has their stuff together and they're going to be heard, and I love
Yeah.
it. The last book we're going to talk about on here is The Lost Journal of Alejandro Pardo, Meet the Dark Creatures from Philippines Mythology by Budget Tan, David Hontiveros, and Cajo Baldissimo. This book is a field guide to Philippines mythological creatures by a supposed cryptozoologist, Alejandro Pardo. It explores the anatomy, attributes, and stories surrounding these creatures. Folklore, mythology, and local legends are often a gateway to other cultures, so this is a great addition to your YA library. I know it's always been a way to get me into a certain culture. Next slide, please.
Continuing with young adult fiction, we have Torch by Lynn Miller Lockman. This is a heavy book, but an important one and very timely as we look at the situation, the current war in Ukraine. Our story starts in Czechoslovakia in 1969 amidst invasion of the Soviet Union and a fatal protest by a 17-year-old named Pavel. And here I want to give some trigger warnings for mentions of suicide as well as bullying. So again, some very heavy themes explored in this book. And Pavel's death sets in motion a government investigation into his three closest friends, Stepan, Thomas, and Lita. Stepan is a closeted gay hockey player who keeps his secret because to let it out would mean death. Tomas is autistic coded and acts incorrectly no matter how hard he tries to follow social cues. And Lita, Pavel's girlfriend, is pregnant with his child, unraveling all of her previously laid plans. Each of them is in grave danger, and they must decide whether to stay and struggle for the country Pavel died trying to save, or escape for a better life elsewhere. And if they choose to leave, how can they possibly flee unscathed? This is a story of grief and loss and what it looks like to lose the life you thought you would have. Do not go into this for a light romp, but be but be prepared to be deeply impacted by its heavy themes and moving characters. This will be out on November 11th.
That one sounds like it has adult crossover potential too. I love that.
Yeah, I read it myself and it's really, really good.
Oh, I'm adding that to my list yet again. Up next, we have something completely different. My Mechanical Romance by Alexine Farrell Falmouth. It is an enemy to lovers STEM-themed YA romance. So sign me up. Written by the author of wildly popular The Atlas 6, this is Falmouth's first foray into YA, and it definitely does not disappoint. It is the adorable story of Belle, who, when we meet her, has no interest in being an academic achiever or really striving for anything in life. But it just so happens that she is amazing at engineering, which, much to her chagrin, is how her science teacher ends up strong-arming her into joining the robotics club. Once in the club, she is promptly dismissed and written off by the club's members, and now she must prove herself. As she starts to succeed and show her skills, Matteo Luna, the captain of the group, grows more friendly, and the two discover that they're an amazing team, both in robotics and in their personal lives. This one shows that women, and specifically women of color, belong in STEM, and that you should never judge someone before you know their capabilities.
This sounds like a good read-alike for When Dimple Met Rishi.
Good point.
Absolutely.
Definitely adding that one to my TBR as well. I'm very excited for that. Almost as excited as I am for the next one on here, A Million to One by Adiba Jagardar. This one is quite a bit lighter than my last one and is described as a sapphic Titanic heist novel by the author of the Hannah Wars, and I don't think we could ask for anything more. The year is 1912, and an unlikely group of women gather on the prestigious and unsinkable Titanic in order to steal the Rubaiyat, a jewel-encrusted book that just so happens to be aboard. The group consists of a thief, an artist, an acrobat, and an actress. They have nothing in common except for this journey on the high seas where they may or may not make it out alive. With such an immersive read and entertaining tale, it's so easy to forget one very important detail. The Titanic sank. Chaos and romance ensue, counting down until the last second, and an iceberg that will shatter everything. Do yourself a favor, and if it wasn't already, put this book on hold now. It will be out on December 13th and well worth the wait.
This sounds incredible.
I could see this one being adapted too.
Yes.
It just sounds
Movie
very
potential.
cinematic.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, next slide, please. And next, we're going to discuss some young adult nonfiction. I don't know about you, but I love this renaissance that we've been seeing in YA nonfiction. There have been so many amazing titles coming out in the last few years, and these next few are excellent additions to any collection. First, we have Freedom, the story of the Black Panther Party by Jetta Grace Martin, Joshua Bloom, and Waldo E. Martin Jr. Freedom teaches readers about the history of the Black Panther Party from its conception in the 1960s to its disbandment in the 1980s. It is told through interviews, gorgeous photos, and stories, and discusses the power dynamics and gender politics within the party, and looks at the party through a neutral lens, also often discussing its downfalls and problematic practices. But of course, it speaks to the lasting social legacy the party has had on our country and all of the positive change it has brought. This is the perfect addition to an anti-racist collection, and readers will love it. Of note, this title received a starred review from Publishers Weekly and Booklist.
And next we have Maybe an Artist by Liz Montague. From one of the very first Black female cartoonists to be published in the New Yorker comes a graphic memoir about her youth and journey to present day. A bumpy road, Montague explores her life as a Black child in a predominantly white New Jersey town, her severe dyslexia, and attempts to answer the questions, who am I and who do I want to be? At 22, Montague wrote to the New Yorker with a simple question: why don't they publish more inclusive comics? When they responded asking if she could recommend any, she responded, yes, me. With humor and wit, Montague's memoir bursts off the page and shows that success in art is for everyone, not just dead white guys. An engaging and entertaining read for anyone who has ever looked at the world and thought, where do I belong? This is out on October 11th. Next slide, please.
And next is What's the Tea? The Guide to All Things Trans and/or Non-Binary by Juno Dawson. Stonewall ambassador and best-selling author of This Book is Gay, Juno Dawson returns with a book about the complexities of growing up trans and/or non-binary. This book is for anyone with questions, parents of trans and or non-binary kids, and educators looking for advice about the transgender community. It is funny and touching, yet doesn't shy away from emotional and difficult subject matter. It addresses many elements of life, beginning with identity and self-expression, and continuing to coming out and dating. Dawson also includes a section dedicated to help and advice both for kids and for parents and caregivers. It has resources for further support and reading, as well as a glossary. This really is a book that so many kids and parents need, and I cannot recommend it highly enough.
Next, we have Abuela Don't Forget Me by Rex Ogle. This companion in verse to author Ogle's earlier award-winning memoir, Free Lunch, explores his relationship with his beloved Abuela, a woman he has always counted on for love and safety. This is a portrait of a powerful woman in his life who created a home for him and believed in him even when he didn't believe in himself, and offered him a possibility of a new life free of violence and trauma. As time goes on, Abuela loses bits of herself to dementia, but continues to give and give to her grandson, never expecting anything from him in return, sheltering him from his abusive parents and showing how even one person can change absolutely everything. Beautiful and poignant, this book will stay with you long after you've read it, and I recommend it to teens and adults alike. This came out on September 6th.
That sounds heartbreaking and beautiful, and I love a novel in verse.
Yes. Absolutely gorgeous book, as well as his previous ones as well.
Next slide, please. Since this webinar revolves around back to school, it feels right to mention Public Library Connect, which is a great way for public libraries to support the kids and teens in their communities. With our game-changing Public Library Connect feature, public libraries can now extend access to their digital collection through our award-winning student reading app, Sora. With Sora and Public Library Connect, students can borrow age-appropriate ebooks and audiobooks from both their school and local public library digital collections, expanding access to both classroom learning resources and recreational reading. The libraries that have already enabled the Public Library Connect feature have seen a steady growth in circulation of juvenile and young adult materials. Talk to your account manager if you want more information on this. Next slide, please.
If you've ever wished you could recommend a title to patrons directly in Libby or wanted to share a favorite quote from a book, with our new Libby Shelf Talkers, library staff can now add personal notes to titles in their digital collections. Shelf Talkers can be viewed on a title details page in Libby, and you can even schedule them ahead to keep them timely and fresh. Just like the Shelf Talkers in your physical library, Shelf Talkers in Libby are a great opportunity for you to share extra information about titles, such as staff picks, title trivia, and more. As you can see here on the slide, we have a couple images that show you what they look like. If you have any questions about how Shelf Talkers work, reach out to your digital content librarian. We're happy to help, and we're very excited about these new additions. Next slide, please.
And finally, for the first time since 2017, Digipalooza will return and be hosted in person in our hometown of Cleveland, Ohio, and we hope you will join us. Our International User Group Conference is a unique opportunity for our library partners to connect with peers, discover the latest OverDrive innovations, and have fun. From August 9th to August 11th, 2023, you can hear how other libraries are using digital content to increase access in their communities, attend informative sessions with best practices you can take back to your own library, and take advantage of networking opportunities. Registration is now open. And I'm going to hand it back over to Booklist.
Thank you so much, Marisa, Kristen, and Jane, for this wonderful presentation. I am adding things to my to-be read list. I'm going to open up that Libby app and see what I can find and see what I can request from my library. This is all such great content. Thank you so much. So for all of our attendees, tomorrow you will receive an email containing links to today's slide presentation, a certificate of completion, and a video recording. For more about Booklist webinars, be sure to visit booklistonline.com/webinars, where you can view archives of past webinars and register for upcoming ones like those that you see here. Now you can share Booklist love with everyone connected to your school district, library system, or higher learning institution. Booklist Online Unlimited offers just that, unlimited simultaneous access to 30 years worth of reviews and article archives, plus digital editions of Booklist, book links, Booklist's guide to graphic novels in libraries, and the Booklist Reader. For pricing and other questions, visit booklistonline.com/subscribe. Have you heard of Booklist Reader? This is our new magazine that offers reading recommendations to patrons of all ages, and it's coming to print this January. Go to this link here, bit.ly/booklistreader in print to find out how you can order print copies in bulk for your library. Already have a Booklist subscription? Then you can already share the latest issue now. Go to our website for more details. Thank you all so much for joining us for today's program. One more huge thank you to our panelists and to our sponsor, OverDrive. This concludes today's webinar. See you next time.